We're here today because of a disaster that never should have happened. The sobering reality is that despite the losses and damage that have already been suffered, we do not yet know what the full impact of this disaster will be. We should begin by remembering the 11 people who lost their lives in the explosion at the Deepwater Horizon rig and express deep sympathy for their families. I'm glad to be a co-sponsor along with Senator Murkowski of the Senate resolution that Senator Landrieu and other Gulf state senators are offering and authoring, expressing the condolences that I know we all share, and I hope the Senate will act on that resolution as soon as possible. I'd also, of course, like to express our concern for all in the Gulf region whose jobs and life, way of life are threatened by the effects of this Deepwater Horizon disaster. We owe it to them to see that disasters like this never happen again. This hearing is the start of the Energy Committee's oversight of issues related to offshore oil development and the catastrophic blowout that occurred in the Gulf. On the evening of April 20, it is the first of what I expect to be several hearings on these issues. Next week, we'll be receiving testimony from Secretary of Interior Ken Salazar on these events and issues. Our goal in the hearings is to create a thorough factual record and an informed discussion of the very important questions presented by the disaster. The disaster raised here both technological and regulatory questions. We have an obligation to bring a level of seriousness to this endeavor and to determine as quickly as possible and to the best of our ability the appropriate next steps. As those steps become clear through the testimony we receive and the investigative work of our committee staff, I intend to work with Senator Murkowski, the ranking member, and other members of the committee on a bipartisan basis to develop and introduce and advance any necessary and appropriate legislation through the Senate. At the heart of this disaster are three interrelated systems: a technological system of materials and equipment, second, a human system of persons who operated the technological system, and third, a regulatory system. And those interrelated systems failed in a way that many have said was virtually impossible. We need to examine closely the extent to which each of these systems failed to do what it was supposed to do. I don't believe it's enough to just label this catastrophic failure as an unpredictable and unforeseeable occurrence. I don't believe it's adequate to simply chalk what happened up to a view that accidents do happen. If this is like other catastrophic failures of technological systems in modern history, whether it was the sinking of the Titanic, 3 Mile Island, or the loss of the Challenger, we will likely discover that there was a cascade of failures and technical and human and regulatory errors. So our examination of what happened here will have the goal of putting in place improved systems to ensure that this type of catastrophe never happens again. We will also be looking to identify any problems or risks that might exist for operations that are ongoing so that we can ensure that they are addressed with quick and appropriate action to safeguard human lives and the environment. We will begin the process today with two panels of excellent witnesses, and I welcome all of them. The first panel we will hear from is composed of two technical experts. One has long experience in the industry, as well as an independent view as a highly regarded university professor. The other is a retired expert from the Minerals Management Service of the Department of Interior with long experience in overseeing safety of offshore oil and gas operations. After our first panel has given us a baseline of information and perspective on best practices for controlling oil and gas wells and overseeing their safety, we'll hear from a second panel composed of leaders of the three companies involved in this accident, BP, Transocean, and Halliburton. They'll provide us the information currently at their disposal on the disaster, the steps being taken to deal with the aftermath, and their future plans for continued investigation and remediation.